The Zektheri Mining Corporation prided itself on being the most efficient resource extraction entity in the known galaxy. That was until they encountered their first human mining operation in the Carina Nebula's outer rim. First Officer Nectal stood at her observation post, mandibles clicking in confusion as she studied the readings. A single mining vessel, no larger than a short-range shuttle, was systematically dismantling an entire asteroid field, not with the expected plasma cutters or gravitational splitters her species had perfected over millennia, but with what appeared to be a crude mechanical drill. "Impossible," she muttered, adjusting the sensors again. The readings couldn't be right. The human vessel's efficiency ratings were off the charts, processing more raw material in an hour than her entire fleet could manage in a day. The human ship looked almost comical. A boxy, utilitarian design with 4 massive drill heads mounted on articulated arms. It resembled nothing so much as a spacefaring insect, methodically consuming everything in its path. But there was an elegant efficiency to its movements that made Nectal's scientific mind race with possibilities. "High Commander," she called over the ship's internal communication system. "You need to see this." High Commander Vexthor arrived on the observation deck moments later, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light of the nearby star. He watched in silence as the human vessel approached another asteroid, its drills beginning their deadly dance. "How many crew?" he asked finally. "2, sir. Just 2 humans." The silence that followed was heavy with implications. The Zektheri mining fleet employed thousands of workers across hundreds of ships to achieve similar results. The corporation's entire economic model was based on the assumption that efficient resource extraction required massive infrastructure and workforce investments. Yet here was evidence to the contrary, casually destroying centuries of established doctrine. "Send in the acquisition team," Vexthor ordered, his voice carrying the sharp edge of corporate ambition. "That technology belongs to the corporation now." Nectal felt her exoskeleton bristle with unease. "Sir, the humans are under Galactic Council protection. Direct interference with their operations would be regrettable but profitable." Vexthor cut her off. "The fines for violating Council sanctions are less than what we'd make with that technology in a single cycle. Send the team." As she watched the sleek corporate interceptors break formation and head toward the unsuspecting human vessel, Nectal couldn't shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. There was something about the casual competence of that lonely mining ship that suggested its primitive appearance might be deceptive. The interceptors moved into position, their weapon systems powering up with the familiar hum that had ended countless corporate negotiations. The human vessel continued its work, seemingly oblivious to the threat. Then everything changed. The human ship's drills, previously engaged with the asteroid, swiveled with impossible speed. Before the interceptors could fire, all 4 drill heads engaged their drive systems simultaneously. The resulting gravitational shear created a localized disruption field that sent the corporate ships tumbling end over end. "By the first prophet," Nectal whispered, watching as the human vessel systematically disabled the interceptor's weapon systems with surgical precision, using nothing but mining equipment. The human captain's voice, when it came over the general communication channel, was almost apologetic. "Folks, I'm going to have to ask you to back off. These asteroids are registered to Earth Mining Cooperative, and we got quotas to meet, also trying to steal our tech. That's just poor business practice." Vexthor's crystalline form had taken on the pale hue of corporate embarrassment. "Full retreat," he ordered, his voice barely a whisper. "Delete all records of this encounter." As the Zektheri fleet prepared to jump away, Nectal couldn't help but admire the elegance of the human solution. They hadn't built better weapons or bigger ships. They'd simply looked at the problem differently, turning the very tools of their trade into both sword and shield. The last thing she saw before the jump engines engaged was the human vessel, already back at work, its drills dancing their efficient ballet among the asteroids. She had a feeling this wouldn't be the last time humanity would append the galaxy's comfortable assumptions about how things should be done. In the ship's log later that cycle, Nechtel wrote only, "Encountered human mining operation. Preliminary analysis suggests urgent need to revise corporate efficiency standards." Personal addendum. Perhaps it's time we stopped assuming that more complex solutions are automatically better. The human mining ship's designation was recorded as DMV 429, Occam's Razor, though few in the corporation understood the reference, and fewer still appreciated the irony. The HFY Mining Corporation wasn't accustomed to failure. 2 standard cycles after their first encounter with the human mining vessel, they returned in force. This time, High Commander Vexthor had brought the pride of the corporate fleet, 30 ships, including the massive processing vessel Prophet Eternal. Sarah Chen, chief engineer of the DMV 429, Occam's Razor, watched the alien fleet's arrival through her cabin's viewport while sipping her morning coffee. Her mining partner and pilot, James Rodriguez, was still asleep in the crew quarters below. Well, she muttered to herself, at least they're persistent. The alien fleet had arranged itself in a classic containment pattern, cutting off all apparent vectors of escape. Their energy signatures suggested they'd upgraded their shields after the last encounter, specifically to resist gravitational manipulation. Sarah smiled. They'd learned the wrong lesson. She activated the ship's comm system. "James, wake up. We've got company, and they've brought friends." A groggy voice responded. "The crystal guys again." "Yep. 30 ships this time." "Damn," James yawned. "They really want our drills." Sarah's fingers danced across her control panel, bringing up schematics and system readouts. The Razor's 4 drill heads weren't just mining tools. They were the product of centuries of human engineering philosophy, distilled down to its purest form. Every component served multiple purposes. Every system could be repurposed on the fly. The alien flagship's communication beam cut through her thoughts. "Human vessel, this is High Commander Vexthor. Your technology has been deemed vital to corporate interests. Surrender your vessel and accept our generous compensation package." Sarah keyed the comm. "High Commander, this is Chief Engineer Chen. While we appreciate the offer, we must decline. However, I'd be happy to explain why your current mining methods are inefficient." The silence that followed was almost comical. Finally, "You dare to lecture the HFY Mining Corporation on efficiency?" "Well," Sarah shrugged, though they couldn't see it, "someone should." She watched through the viewport as the alien fleet began to close in. Their formation was perfect, their coordination flawless. It was exactly what she'd been counting on. "James," she called down to the pilot station, "remember that trick we used in the asteroid fields of Barnard's Star? The one that got us banned from 3 mining colonies?" "That's the one." James' laugh echoed through the ship. "Oh, they're gonna hate this." Sarah's hands flew over her controls, making minute adjustments to the drill head's resonance frequencies. Each massive drill began to spin at a slightly different rate, creating overlapping waves of vibration that spread out through space. The alien ship's perfect formation became their undoing. As the resonance waves hit their hulls, each ship began to vibrate at its own natural frequency. Their sophisticated shields, designed to resist massive forces, did nothing to stop the gentle oscillations that were now propagating through their fleet. "What are you doing?" Vexthor's voice had lost its corporate smoothness. "Demonstrating efficiency," Sarah replied cheerfully. "You see, your ships are beautifully built, but they're over-engineered. All those redundant systems create resonance points that—" She was cut off by the sound of dozens of alarms blaring across the alien fleet. The vibrations had found the exact frequencies needed to disrupt their power distribution systems. One by one, their ships began to go dark. "Don't worry," Sarah broadcast to the increasingly panicked fleet. "The effect is temporary. Your systems will reset in about an hour. Just enough time for us to finish our work here and leave you with something to think about." As the Razor resumed its mining operations, Sarah composed a detailed technical analysis of exactly why the aliens' mining methods were wasteful, appending it with suggestions for improvement. She transmitted it to their flagship just before their communication systems failed. Was that last part really necessary? James asked as they finished loading their cargo holds. Sarah watched the disabled alien fleet drift harmlessly around them. Consider it a professional courtesy. Besides, if they're going to keep chasing us around the galaxy, they might as well learn something useful. As they prepared to jump out of the system, Sarah added one final message to her transmission. P.S. If you're interested in actual technological exchange, we have weekly engineering seminars. Bring your own coffee. The Razor disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind a fleet of the galaxy's most advanced mining ships, temporarily transformed into very expensive space debris, their computers filled with homework assignments from a human engineer who had just taught them the most expensive lesson of their corporate history. Sometimes the simplest solution is the most elegant. And somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of the Zektheri Mining Corporation, First Officer Nektul was already filing the paperwork to attend next week's seminar. The weekly engineering seminar was interrupted by an explosion that rocked the entire training facility on Europa. Sarah Chen watched as her carefully prepared holographic presentations about efficient drill harmonics dissolved into static, replaced by emergency lighting, and the sound of hull breach warnings. First Officer Nektul, who had become a regular attendee along with a growing number of other Zektheri engineers, immediately activated her emergency beacon. "This wasn't us," she chittered urgently. "The corporation didn't authorize." "I know," Sarah cut her off, already moving toward the environmental controls. "Your people are too smart for something this crude." She paused, allowing herself a small smile. Now, the facility's atmosphere began venting through multiple breaches, but Sarah remained eerily calm. The other human engineers in the room were already donning what appeared to be standard emergency pressure suits, helping their alien colleagues with their own protective gear. Rival Corporation. James Rodriguez asked over their secured channel as he helped distribute emergency brothers to the Zektheri. "Worse," Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across a portable terminal she'd pulled from her suit. "True believers. The kind who think humanity is destroying galactic cultural purity with our primitive innovations." Through the reinforced windows, they could see ships emerging from behind Europa's ice sheets, sleek, aggressive vessels marked with the symbol of the Purist Confederation, a militant group dedicated to preserving what they saw as the proper order of technological development among spacefaring species. "They're jamming standard communications," one of the Zektheri engineers reported, their crystalline form reflecting the emergency lights. "We can't call for help." Sarah's laugh echoed through the suit communications. "Who said we need to call anyone?" She connected her portable terminal to the facility systems. Within moments, the supposedly disabled mining drills that lined the training facility's walls hummed to life. But instead of their usual mining configurations, they began moving in patterns that seemed almost orchestrated, like a dance. "What you're about to see," Sarah broadcast to both her allies and the attacking ships, "is why humans never stopped using mechanical systems, even after we developed energy weapons. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." The drills, now fully activated, began to spin. Not in their usual mining patterns, but in precise, calculated sequences. The vibrations they generated started to resonate with Europa's ice sheets. "You're going to shatter the moon," one of the Purist ships transmitted in alarm. "No," Sarah corrected them. Still typing. "I'm going to give it a voice." The vibrations changed frequency, transforming from destructive resonance into something else entirely. The ice sheets began to act as massive transmitters, broadcasting on frequencies that cut through any attempted jamming. Fun fact about ice crystals, Sarah explained to her bewildered audience. With the right vibration patterns, they make excellent emergency communication arrays. The same principles we use to break down asteroids can be used to send signals. Humans learned that during the Europa colonization crisis of 2147. Help arrived within minutes, not just Earth Defense Forces, but Zektheri corporate ships as well. The Purist fleet, caught between the approaching reinforcements and the now very awake mining facility began to retreat. But Sarah wasn't finished. With a few final commands, she redirected the drill vibrations one last time. The ice sheets around the purest ships crystallized in new patterns, forming a lattice that trapped their vessels in place. And that, she said, turning to her stunned alien students, is why we always say tools are only as primitive as your imagination. The cleanup took hours. As emergency teams repaired the facility, Sarah found herself sharing a cup of replicated coffee with Nektal in what remained of the facility's observation lounge. "You knew something like this might happen," the Zektheri officer observed. "That's why you insisted on keeping the obsolete drills installed." Sarah nodded. Humanity learned a long time ago that true innovation isn't about having the most advanced technology. It's about understanding all your tools, from the simplest to the most complex, and being ready to use them in ways nobody expects. She gestured to the drill-turned transmitters. Every tool can be a weapon, a shield, or a means of creation. What matters is how you think about using it. Nektal's crystalline form shifted in what Sarah had learned was their equivalent of thoughtful contemplation. "The corporation has been approaching this all wrong, hasn't it? We've been trying to steal your technology, when what we really needed to learn was your methodology. Now you're getting it," Sarah grinned. "Speaking of which, next week's seminar will be about repurposing standard mining sonic resonators for emergency medical treatment. Assuming we've got the facility repaired by then." As they watched the Earth Defense Forces escort the captured purist ships away, Nektal made a decision that would change the course of galactic industrial development. "The corporation has been discussing opening a joint human Zektheri engineering academy. Would you consider a position as lead instructor?" Sarah's eyes lit up with the kind of enthusiasm that had led humanity to turn mining tools into communication arrays and drills into defensive systems. "Only if we can keep the coffee maker." The Galactic Trade Summit on Proxima Centauri b wasn't the sort of place where one expected to find revolution. Yet there it was, hidden in plain sight among the corporate displays and technology demonstrations. High Commander Vexthor stood before the assembled delegates, his crystalline form reflecting the light of 1,000 holo-displays, and admitted what many had already begun to suspect. "The Zektheri Mining Corporation," he announced, "is proud to announce our complete restructuring under the guidance of our new human partners." The assembled aliens buzzed with confusion and concern. The largest mining corporation in the galaxy voluntarily reorganizing. It was unprecedented. In the audience, Sarah Chen sat next to Nektal, both trying to suppress their amusement at the reactions around them. The past 6 months had seen their joint engineering academy transform from a controversial experiment into the most sought-after training facility in known space. "Should we tell them about the Titan project?" Nektal whispered. Sarah shook her head. "Let them figure it out themselves. It's more fun that way." On the massive screens behind Vexthor, images began to play. They showed the new hybrid mining vessels, combining Zektheri precision with human adaptability. But more than that, they showed something that made the corporate representatives shift uncomfortably in their seats: small crews, minimal infrastructure, and efficiency ratings that shouldn't have been possible. "As you can see," Vexthor continued, "by adopting human engineering principles and combining them with our own technologies, we've achieved a 300% increase in extraction efficiency while reducing operational costs by 70%. The numbers caused an uproar. A Centaurian mining baron stood up, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "Impossible. Such results would require—" "Thinking differently," Sarah interrupted, standing up. She hadn't planned to speak, but sometimes opportunities were too good to pass up. "Permission to demonstrate, High Commander." Vexthor gestured for her to take the stage. As she walked up, Sarah activated her personal holoprojector. Above the audience, a 3-dimensional image appeared, a traditional alien mining operation with its massive crews and complex infrastructure, alongside a human-inspired operation that looked deceptively simple. "The galaxy," she began, has been approaching resource extraction from a position of overwhelming force. Bigger ships, larger crews, more complex systems. But humans, we learned early on that Earth's resources were finite. We couldn't afford to be wasteful. She manipulated the display, showing how the new hybrid systems worked. We didn't just make mining tools. We made them adaptable. Every component serves multiple purposes. Every system can be reconfigured on the fly. It's not about having the most advanced technology. It's about using what you have in the most efficient way possible. The display shifted to show the Titan project, a massive mining operation on Saturn's largest moon that operated with a crew of just 20, using systems that could reconfigure themselves based on the specific challenges they encountered. But the real revolution, Sarah continued, isn't in the technology. It's in how we think about problems. The Zektheri taught us precision. We taught them adaptability. Together, we're creating something entirely new. A Regelian executive raised a hand. But what about our existing infrastructure? The investments we've made. That's the beauty of it, Nektal called out, rising to join Sarah. These principles can be applied to your existing systems. The Academy isn't just teaching new technology. It's teaching a new way of thinking. The images shifted again, showing how traditional mining operations could be modified using human principles. Simple changes in how existing technology was used could lead to dramatic improvements in efficiency. The revolution is already happening, Sarah explained. Every graduate of our academy takes these ideas back to their corporations. Every successful implementation proves that bigger isn't always better. And the best part, none of this requires throwing away what you've built. It just requires looking at it differently. The room had grown quiet, the kind of quiet that comes when people realize they're witnessing a paradigm shift. Sarah could see representatives from various corporations already running calculations on their devices, trying to figure out how to adapt these principles to their operations. We're not here to destroy your way of doing things, she concluded. We're here to show you that there's always another way to look at a problem. The real question is, are you ready to learn? The silence broke into a cascade of questions and requests for Academy applications. As Sarah stepped down from the stage, she caught Vexthor's eye. The High Commander's crystalline form was glowing with what she now recognized as satisfaction. You planned this, she accused him good-naturedly. The corporation didn't become successful by missing opportunities, he replied. Though I admit, when we first encountered your mining vessel, I never imagined we'd end up revolutionizing the entire industry. Sarah watched as Nektal began organizing the flood of Academy applications on her datapad. The best revolutions, she said, are the ones people don't see coming until they're already part of them. 5 years after the Galactic Trade Summit, the viewing platform of the Human Zektheri Engineering Academy on Europa was crowded with beings from across the galaxy. They had gathered to witness the graduation of the Academy's largest class yet, but more importantly, to see the unveiling of something unprecedented. The first truly collaborative galactic mining vessel. Sarah Chen stood at the podium, her hair now streaked with gray, but her eyes still bright with the same enthusiasm that had turned a simple mining drill into a revolution. Beside her, Nektal's crystalline form had taken on the deep blue hues of accumulated wisdom, while High Commander Vexthor, now Chancellor of the Academy, stood proudly with his successor designate, James Rodriguez. When humans first ventured into space, Sarah began, we carried with us something more valuable than technology. We carried questions, not just how do we do this, but why do we do it this way? The massive vessel hung in space behind her, visible through the transparent dome. Unlike the utilitarian designs of human ships or the elegant complexity of alien vessels, this ship represented something new, a perfect fusion of multiple engineering philosophies. The Galileo, she continued, gesturing to the ship, isn't just a mining vessel. It's a testament to what we can achieve when we stop trying to prove who's more advanced and start learning from each other. The ship's design told the story of its origins, the simple efficiency of human drilling systems, merged seamlessly with Zektheri precision technology. Centaurian energy distribution systems worked in harmony with Rigelian sensor arrays. Every component represented a different species contribution, yet the whole was something entirely new. But the real breakthrough, Sarah said, her voice carrying across the silent chamber, isn't in the technology. It's in what we've learned from each other. She activated a holographic display, showing not technical specifications, but images from the Academy's history. Humans and aliens working together, sharing not just knowledge but perspectives. The failed purist attack that had turned into a lesson about repurposing technology. The quiet revolution that had spread across the galaxy not through force, but through the simple power of asking why. The Zektheri taught us the value of precision, she acknowledged, nodding to Nectal. The Centaurians showed us new ways to think about energy distribution. The Rigelians revolutionized our understanding of sensor technology, and in return, we taught something that many had forgotten in their race for advancement. The hologram shifted to show Earth, a small blue marble hanging in space. We taught them that limitation breeds innovation, that the most elegant solution isn't always the most advanced one, that every tool, every technology, every problem contains possibilities we haven't yet imagined. In the audience, representatives from a dozen species nodded in understanding. They had seen their own industries transformed not by adopting human technology, but by applying human thinking to their existing systems. The Galileo carries a crew of 30, Sarah continued, drawn from 15 different species. Each brings their own way of thinking, their own approach to problems. And that's our real legacy, not the technology we've created together, but the understanding that diversity of thought is our greatest strength. She paused, looking out at the gathered graduates. You're not just engineers now. You're pioneers of a new way of thinking. Every problem you encounter is an opportunity to question assumptions, to combine perspectives, to find solutions nobody has imagined yet. The ceremony concluded with the Galileo's first power-up sequence. As its systems came online, human drills guided by Zektheri precision, powered by Centaurian energy cores, coordinated by Rigelian sensors, the gathered crowd witnessed something unprecedented. Technology that represented not the dominance of any one species approach, but the harmony of many. Later, in the Academy's observation lounge, Sarah found herself sharing one last cup of coffee with Nectal and Vexthor. Did you ever imagine it would lead to this? Nectal asked, gesturing to where the Galileo hung in space, preparing for its maiden voyage. Sarah smiled, remembering that first confrontation years ago. Honestly, no, I just wanted to show you there was a different way to think about mining. And instead, you showed us there was a different way to think about everything, Vexthor added. His crystalline form shimmered with what Sarah had learned was their expression of profound appreciation. That's humanity's real gift to the galaxy, she said, watching as the Galileo's drill heads began their first test sequence, moving with a grace that combined human adaptability with alien precision. Not our technology, not our methods, but our endless capacity to look at the same thing everyone else has seen and see something completely different. The Galileo's drills caught the light of Europa's ice sheets, creating a rainbow of reflections across the observation lounge. In that play of light, Sarah saw the future, not a future dominated by human innovation or alien advancement, but one shaped by the endless possibilities that arise when different ways of thinking come together. You know what the best part is? She added, finishing her coffee. We're just getting started.